It takes a lot to make me nervous, and I'm nervous.
Trucking over ice is not an easy task, as it requires nerves of steel, patience, leadership, and some master-level driving skills. However, if there's something we've learned about history's ice road truckers, it's that the job also requires knowing how to deal with huge amounts of drama and numbers of rivalries, all while trying not to let fame go to their heads. While the audience was even used to seeing truckers argue season after season, no one could have imagined the difficult events that were happening off-camera too. Such is the case of Hugh Rowland, whose exit from the show was surrounded by a big scandal which had some pretty dark consequences. So, whatever happened to him? Why did Hugh leave the show? And where is he today? Keep with us to discover all about this controversial Ice Road Truckers cast member. Hugh Rowland was never a man to be taken lightly while on the road. On top of his vast experience behind the wheel, the so-called polar bear was also quite wise on the business side and always had something to say, especially if he saw his job hindered by the inefficiency of others. Whether people loved or hated him, Hugh was impossible to ignore throughout the several seasons he was in Ice Road Truckers, making his exit from the series in 2014 all the more surprising. But there were actually good reasons for him not to return to the show. As it happened, Hugh suffered a serious accident while in the passenger seat of a truck with Will Morrison, an Ice Road Truckers producer, who was apparently driving recklessly before crashing into some trees on a Canadian road. As Hugh claimed, the injuries Hugh suffered to the lower part of his body hindered his ability to drive normally, obviously affecting his job, and on top of all that, also ruining his marital life, as he asserted in the lawsuit he filed against the show. Given this accident and its consequences, it's unsurprising that Hugh wasn't subsequently featured in the show. Unfortunately, not a lot is known about Hugh Rowland's current whereabouts. His Facebook account hasn't been updated since September 2011, and he doesn't appear to have any other social media accounts, making it very difficult to know what is going on with his life. Regarding his trucking business, VP Express, the company's website and social media have been inactive for a while, but some online directories still list the business as active in the Winnipeg area in Manitoba, Canada. As well, the outcome of Hugh's lawsuit against History Channel is still unknown, leaving us to think that his case was either dismissed or that the parties came to an out-of-court settlement. Either way, we miss seeing Hugh on our TV screens. Long before he left Ice Road Truckers for good in 2010, Hugh Rowland released his book, On Thin Ice: Breakdowns, Whiteouts, and Survival on the World's Deadliest Roads. Written in collaboration with Michael Lent, Hugh's book relates not only his on-road adventures, but also his beginnings in the field, how he grew his business, and mostly previously unknown details about his family. As expected from Hugh, he also openly addressed his experience in Ice Road Truckers, not afraid of admitting that he'd created the book as a way to express his feelings regarding his portrayal in the show. Instead of getting pissed off about what the show is saying about me and the other truckers, I decided to write about it, he said in an interview with Shelf Awareness. On Thin Ice sold very well, and is probably one of the most sincere, straightforward, and in-depth ways his fans got to know who Hugh really is. Surprisingly enough, Hugh Rowland's job experience began when he was 11 years old. As he recalled in his book, at such an early age, he took a spot in a local construction operation, using the savings to buy cattle in association with his father, who supported him all the way. Of course, it's unusual to find such a young man investing that much effort and time in a growing business, but it proves how seriously Hugh took his work, even back then. In his early 20s, Hugh split his time between working as a trucker and building roads, resulting in him gathering enough experience to establish businesses in both fields. Even though his main motivation to work hard was money, that didn't mean the road was easy. As he admitted in a 2010s interview, "I've lost 35 friends and relatives to the thin ice. Most of the truckers who've gone down, it was due to neglect, to lack of attention, to speeding. Taking such risk to get the job done seems a little bit too extreme, but it's necessary for those who want to put food on their table." By the time Hugh Rowland debuted in Ice Road Truckers, he had already been working in the trucking business for 3 decades. But even regardless of his vast experience, being invited to appear in a TV show was unexpected, to say the least. As he told the Hollywood Soapbox, the first time he was approached by History Channel was over the phone, but he didn't believe a word they said, telling them to wait until the next winter to call him again. "I thought it was one of my buddies just making a prank joke. My God." Next year, they came right to my house and put some cameras in my trucks. Despite the unexpectedness of it all, in 2012, he was still convinced he'd be doing the show for a long time. "I'll probably do it until I'm not enjoying it. And I enjoy the ass out of it right now." Although now we know that shortly afterwards, it wasn't possible for Hugh to continue appearing on TV, he evidently made good use of his time in Ice Road Truckers and its spin-off, Deadliest Roads, while it lasted. Even though Hugh Rowland had many complaints regarding his portrayal in Ice Road Truckers, he didn't let that negative aspect of the show get to him, expressing several times that he was doing it only for the money. However, while Hugh's popularity escalated, he remained a down-to-earth man. As he affirmed in an interview with Joshua Nanny on YouTube, he had no plans to pursue a luxurious life or even move out from home. despite his popularity. I'm not really famous. It's in a reality TV show, and I don't think anybody on reality TV is too famous. Regarding the changes his life went through after appearing in the series, he admitted that not a lot has changed on the personal side, except people who recognize him in the streets. However, the dynamics in his company took a strange turn, saying his drivers thought they were Hollywood superstars after the show's premiere, bothering him from the point of firing them, which didn't end up well. The History Channel hired them back the next season on their own, and I thought, oh man, he admitted, clearly amused, but it surely wasn't a pleasant experience when it happened. Always a man to speak his mind, Hugh Rowland was known for quite freely voicing his opinions about other cast members, while fellow drivers such as Rick Yam and Maya Cyber were on his good side. He wasn't that kind towards Dave Redman and others. However, Hugh's most known beef while on the show was with Lisa Kelly, believing that she was just in it for the ratings. They brought her in there so guys like me and you would watch the show, he told Joshua Nanny on YouTube, also adding that she'll be a pretty good little trucker when they're done with her, while his fellow driver Rick Yam supported Hugh's claims and criticized Lisa for bringing her manager to the road. Lisa herself affirmed that she didn't know why Hugh seemed to dislike her that much. I don't know if he really does or if that's just TV banter. I've never asked him, and I don't really care, she told the Los Angeles Times, even though Hugh never confirmed if he actually disliked Lisa, just by recalling all the times he criticized her job performance. It becomes pretty obvious that he wasn't her biggest fan, unlike most people who watch the show. Despite not appearing in the spin-off series Deadliest Road's first season, Hugh Rowland was more than ready to run the dangerous South American roads for the show's second season, premiered in 2011. His adventure in Bolivia started with Rick Yam, who soon left, leaving Hugh to drive the death road alone, which he managed pretty well despite all the problems he and other drivers faced while in the country, including having to deal with local strikes. I stood in the protest line for about an hour, watching them throw dynamite in the streets, lots of noise, but not accomplishing much except for holding us up, he wrote on Facebook at the time. During a stay in Bolivia, Hugh almost crashed his truck into a local market, was race challenged twice by co-stars Timothy R. Zicker and Augustine Rodriguez, and was robbed of his personal camera at some point, but it was a peaceful run nonetheless. The rest of his adventure saw him loading sheep on bruised, deadly mountain roads, finishing his 8-week-long trip on the top by successfully hauling dynamite and fireworks, even in the face of dangers it entailed. Despite admitting he didn't know if he was going to make it, he ended up describing the adventure as an unreal trip. As interesting as reality TV might be, most of the time, series of this genre don't show its viewers what really happens. This is the case with the truck which Hugh Rowland supposedly sold to Rick Yam. As seen in Ice Road Truckers, Hugh sold the Western Star to Rick, who had been his sidekick behind the wheel for quite some time. However, as affirmed by Rick, this was supposedly a false plot point, elaborated by producers. They pushed these stories to the point that we have to go along with it or we're not involved, he told Hulick.com. Although he might not have actually sold Rick the truck, the show didn't lie about the authenticity of Hugh's company, VP Express, as well. Rick and Hugh's work relationship was real all the same, and they got along quite well, to the point where Rick affirmed Hugh was misportrayed in the show. The thing is, they put him off as being a big a-hole, but he's really not. He said in regards to Hugh's reputation as being an obnoxious person, they exploit that. They want that it's all about money. All in all, it goes beyond saying that people really shouldn't believe everything that they see or hear on TV. Hugh Rowland was an Ice Road Truckers just for the money, and he never had a problem about saying so. The reason he got into the business in the first place was to afford a good life for his family, but it was pretty obvious he also loved the job and the thrill it entailed. That being said, it's surprising to know Hugh wasn't paid in his first Ice Road Trucker season, but he always planned on making that change later on down the road. Apparently, prior to the show, he had in mind expanding his company's truck float, but was unable to do so given his tight filming schedule. So when the second season came around, he gave the producers an ultimatum. Either they bought him a new truck or let him go. It turns out that the show's company, Original Productions, paid him an undisclosed salary, but failed to acquiesce to his second request. They made me a lot of promises that they didn't carry out, affirmed Hugh in an interview with Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2008. Even though Hugh's salary from the show is still unknown to this day, the uproar his interview with O'Brien caused turned in his favor, leaving him not only with a new truck, but even being paid for it. All in all, Hugh wasn't only a good driver and skilled businessman, but he was undoubtedly one of the most interesting stars ever featured in Ice Road Truckers.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.